Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? It's Friday. We all made it to Friday. That's wonderful, right? Friday is always a good day. It's hard to have a bad day on a Friday, right? I know that where I live, it is just gorgeous out. Yesterday in the afternoon, it was so nice out. I took my dog out to the park. I'm going to post a video about that later. But yeah, it's Friday. It's a beautiful day out. I hope the same for you. I hope that you're also doing well. I got to tell you guys, it's been great that it's Friday and it's been a good week. But man, I am tired. This content creation stuff is not is not an easy thing to keep up with. So I really hope that I can keep on going through this particular live stream. Maybe I'll make it more participation so I can hear back from you guys and you guys can give me some energy or something. But wow, it's been a tough week. It's been a tough week. I got my metrics from YouTube just a couple days ago, and I did 170 pieces of content and 30 live streams in July. I mean, that's a lot, isn't it? I mean, that sounds like a lot because every live stream I do is at least an hour. Probably average closer to like an hour and a half if you count the Sundays where we go like 3 hours and all that. But that's a lot of streaming. That takes a lot of energy. I mean, sometimes I'm kind of spent after these streams. But I hope that all of you are doing well. All of you already know that at least the regulars know that we do start with a global roll call where I ask you to let me know where you're from, the city, state, province, country that you're from. It's a good way for us to see how global the community of data scientists is. And it's also good for all of us to, start creating some fellowship and bond in the chats and in this community. In addition to that, I also do it, I don't really say this often, but I also do it just to kind of keep things a little bit friendly and a little bit professional. Because, when you're walking into a new group or a new room or a meeting or meeting somebody for the first time or asking for a favor or things along those lines, it's very important to have, at least a small level of etiquette and manners when you're approaching somebody, right? I get all kinds of messages, all kinds of DMs and whatnot. Some are more polite than others. So it's important for us to continually practice, and just kind of treating each other in a professional way, because I guarantee you that is the type of stuff that will, one, it will separate you from everybody else that you're competing against, other applicants, other data scientists. And two, it really adds a certain level of polish, a certain level of professionalism to how people perceive you. And in turn, that's how they will perceive your results, right? And then in addition to all of that, one of the things that I love too, as you work your way up into leadership, not just in data science, but really in any kind of leadership role, I really believe in that the tone starts from the top, right? How you act as a leader is how the people below you are also going to act, right? So if you're somebody who doesn't have a good level of etiquette, level of manners, then your team in turn will not show that to other people, right? So it kind of spreads out that way in a negative way, right? If you're doing things that are positive, that'll spread out too. But, if you're late to meetings, if you're not showing manners or etiquette, if you're not, responding on time, your team is going to do the same thing, right? Your team is going to feed off that energy. So it's really important for all of us to kind of, bring a good attitude to this, right? So with that, I'm already seeing some people in the chat. So let's go ahead and start our roll call here. Tim, I don't know if you're competing here, but there's been this interesting race for who's going to be the first one to the chat, and you are first today, my friend. I don't know if that was intentional, but I'm sure that Rohan right below you is very disappointed because Rohan's usually first. So shout out to Tim for being first. Tim is our friend in Michigan, so hope you're doing well out there, Tim. I'm going to say that it's probably a really nice time of year up in Michigan, right? Because I see Michigan as being far enough north where it's not too hot anymore, right? It's probably reasonable at this time of year, but you let us know, Michigan. You let us know, Tim. I said you let us know, Michigan. That's bad. Rohan, good morning, Dennis and all. Rohan from Vizag, India. Well, good morning, Rohan. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. You've been such a consistent attendee. I love it. I love the energy. Love the consistency. Real Slim Chadi says hi. Chadi, I know you've told us before. Remind me where you're from. Remind me where you're visiting us from, but good to see you. Rex, our man in New York City, coming to you. Happy Friday, everyone, coming to you from New York City. Rex is also one of our moderators, so shout out to Rex for helping out. Joseph, also one of our moderators. Joseph, good morning, Dennis and everyone. Good morning, Joseph. Hope you're doing well. Real Slim Shady says, great accomplishment. You should be proud. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I feel good about it, but it's a lot of work to put this together for you guys. I'm constantly editing and making clips and uploading, downloading, coming up with new ideas. And hey, those memes don't make themselves, right? I mean, I gotta dedicate half my day just to memes, right? Pao says, good day, Dennis from Manila, Philippines. Oh, very cool. Good to see you. How are you? Pal, I don't think I've seen you in the chat before, so if it's your first time, welcome. How are things in the Philippines? I've always heard that Manila is such a big city, right? It's a very spread out city from what I've heard about Manila, so I hope you're doing well out there. Unknown Crusader says, okay, I'm in the chat. All right. Did we miss a part of that conversation? Let us know where you're from, Unknown Crusader. Would love to hear more about where you're from. If you're just joining us on Instagram, I'm still seeing some people coming in. Let us know your city, state, country, province, whatever you want to tell us. Maybe you want to tell us about where you're at in your data science journey, if you're a student, if you're a career professional. We get all kinds of levels, right? And I love that about our chat. All kinds of levels. I'm willing to help everyone at every level. I have different resources. But yeah, it's a real open community that way. Chadi says, I'll be in Sydney mid next week. Oh, very cool. I would love to go back to Sydney. I had such a good time there. I spent Christmas there a couple years back. Had a really good time. Beautiful city, great people. The restaurants, I'm not sure if I'm going to call Sydney a good dining city, but I had a good time there. Really nice people. Had a good time in Sydney. So hope you have a good trip out there. Jadi, how are you, Jadi? Our friend from Nigeria. Good morning, Dennis from Lagos, Nigeria. Nice, very cool. I don't know a thing about Lagos. I think it's the capital, right? Maybe? That's the only thing I know about Nigeria. So if you want to share anything, Jadi, let us know. Pao says, been watching your YouTube videos, first time to join live due to the time difference. Okay, very cool. Thanks so much, Pao. I really appreciate that. Thanks for making the time. Yeah, you're right about that. I think it is rather late for most of Asia. So every once in a while, I do try to run a stream that is more friendly to the Asian time zone. So maybe you want to keep an eye out on that. I tend to do those on my Thursday nights, your Friday mornings. But maybe I should find a little bit more of a consistent schedule just to kind of help people from Asia find me a little bit more. Because I did run a couple and they've had great attendance so far. And the irony of it is that I also get a lot of people from the US because it's actually still a relatively friendly time for most of the US. So it's kind of like this combined US Asia chat. So I might start doing more of those on a more consistent schedules. But either way, I really appreciate you being here. Thanks. I mean, I'm guessing that I'm going to guess here. I'm guessing right now that in Manila, it's probably past midnight. I'm going to guess it's like 1 a.m. over there. So let us know, pal. But that's my guess. 1 a.m. in Manila right now. Maybe even later. Maybe even like 2 a.m. You let us know, pal. Yassine says, hello, sir. Yassine from Fez, Morocco. Yassine, a consistent supporter. Thanks so much for being here. How are you, my friend? Yassine says, thank you so much for your efforts. It can be really hard and time consuming to keep up with everything, but it helps. You really change people's lives. Your God has... you think so? Yassine says, at least mine. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate that. That's really kind of you to say. Yeah, it is hard to keep up. And, but you know, I love the live streams, to be frankly honest. Out of all the things that I do, right? I reply to messages, I make the memes, I do the clips. Out of all the things I do, spending time with you guys is my favorite. You know, you guys will notice that I try to keep the schedule fluid. You know, if it's good conversation, I'm willing to keep going, right? So yeah, but thanks for that. I think Yassine is also referring to some of the work that all of us are doing on the Discord. So let me bring that up. If you guys, hold on a second. I need to... Give me just a second, guys. I need to refresh my capture because it's not showing the latest caption. There we go. So if you guys want to keep the conversation going beyond our streams, or, for somebody like Pal who is, in a time zone that doesn't always let you join the stream, we have a Discord, and the Discord has had some great chats recently. People are posting, different things that they find. I post alerts to the streams. We've had some great discussion on a problem that we came across during our Sunday class. Yassine has been, doing a great job of leading that discussion. So if you guys want to join us on Discord, the link is already pinned in most of the chats that from whatever platform you're on. I haven't pinned it to Instagram yet. Maybe I should do that. Give me a second to do that, guys. I'm going to do that in a little bit. But if you want to join our Discord, feel free to do that. Keep the discussion going beyond the live chats, or maybe you have a question, or you want, you found an interesting article you want people to discuss, you want people's opinions on, feel free to do that. But yeah, Yassine and some of the other people in the chat here have been great contributors to there, so you can, kind of talk to the same people. And I'm throwing out guidance as much as I can, kind of maybe shape some of your thinking or the different approaches that people are taking. But if you guys want to join us there, really fun community there. So good to see you, Yassine. Thanks for joining us again today. Okay, so Pao says it's 11 p.m. right here right now. Oh, I was so close. I really thought it was after midnight, but okay, 11 p.m. in Manila. Leo, our good friend Leo. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, chat. Good morning to you too, Leo. Nice of you to come in. Leo is also in our Discord, and he's been asking about maybe some people want to team up for a Kaggle competition. That could be fun, right? If we could submit a team entry, that could be very interesting to do. I think there's a lot of potential around that. So if you guys want to, connect with Leo, he's on Discord. You want to, maybe come up with some other project ideas, the Discord is a place to do it. Manoj HD. Hey, Manoj, good to see you again. I've seen you a couple times this week. Good morning, sir. Manoj from Bangalore, India. Well, good morning. How are you, Manoj? I know it's not morning in India, so it's very kind of you to say that. So thanks a lot for that. Yeah, because by the way, for me, it's 8 a.m. where I am in the world. It's 8 a.m. on Friday morning. So I know that's quite different from some of you, but that's just the way it is on the west coast of the United States. Ravindran A says here it's night. Well, hey, Ravindran. I know you've joined us before. I can't remember from where though. So remind me where you're from, Ravindran. Good to see you. Giovanni Tabango. Giovanni, welcome. Giovanni, where are you from? Let us know. Giovanni says, I am behind the chapter of the books. Yeah, that's it's a lot. It's a lot now. I actually did some editing of those videos, and we have gone through 4 classes. Which means we have gone through 6 chapters. We are past the halfway point of the book. We only have 4 more chapters to go, only 4 more sessions. And so far, those 4 sessions is almost 10.5 hours of content, if you guys can believe that. I put all my streams together, because I was curious about how big they are. 10.5 hours is what's up there now on my YouTube. And guys, this is completely free. I don't charge for it. I'm just doing it for my own interest. But here, in case you're wondering, this is the book that we're referring to. Introduction to Statistical Learning. If you're not familiar with this book, you should be. This book is where professional data science development begins. Okay, don't worry about those Coursera courses and the Udemy stuff, and I gotta watch this tutorial. This is where professional data science begins. So I'm doing my part to help teach the book, because it's not an easy book. It's probably a book you need guidance through. I wouldn't recommend you going it completely solo. So every Sunday, 1500 GMT, I am hosting a class where we go through a chapter a week. So we have a class coming up this Sunday. Like I said, we're already on chapter 6. So chapter 7, excuse me. So if you want to get caught up, go to my YouTube, check out the videos that I have up there, or watch my channel later today. What I'm also doing is I'm running the classes on a loop. So anytime you want, you have like a free half hour or something, come back to my channel and you'll see the classes running. The entire loop is like 10.5 hours, like I said. So, maybe later today, or, somebody like Pao who is you know, in a different time zone, maybe when you wake up, you want to see some data science, go to my channel, and you know, a portion of the class will be playing at that time. So it's a good way for you to get caught up. Either way, I try to make the chapters digestible so that anybody can understand them. I mean, I know it's kind of hard to step into it sometimes, but I'm trying to break it down. So the two things I'm doing to add kind of my own twist to it is, one, I'm showing you the real world stuff that you need from the book. And you'll see it in the content where I say, you know what, the authors talk about this, but I don't know how helpful it is in the real world. Or I know this because the authors taught it to me, but in my time, I've never used it. So maybe you would want to consider not using it either, right? So I'm kind of giving you that real world guidance. And two, I'm also kind of, we're taking a unique approach to the code, right? We're not code writers. We're going to be code editors. We rely on AI tools to help us write the code for each of the chapters, right? We do that because I firmly believe that that's the way data science will be done in the future. You know, you will not be starting with a blank screen in the future. You will be heavily aided by AI tools, and it's up to us to do the design and architecture and also the editing of whatever code is given to us, right? So those are the things that we're focusing on the class. So if that interests you, please feel free to join us. You know, some of the same people in the chat are the same ones that are attending the class, and we also get additional people that come just for the class. So in other words, it's a good group of people, good like-minded data scientists. So come and join us if you're interested. Chadi, I'm going to come back to your question, okay? Ravindran says, I'm from Bangalore, India. I'm the one who asked question related to Julia. Oh, right. I remember now, Ravindran. That's right. That's right. So welcome back. Really appreciate you coming back. That's right. You asked about Julia. That was a good one. That was a really good one. So chat, in case you don't remember, Ravindran did ask about the Julia language and if people use it, or if I was a fan of it, or, you know, kind of what my experience or my outlook was on the language. And if you don't know it, don't worry. That's common. A lot of people don't know what Julia is, but Julia is another language that you could be using for data science. It's used for a lot of scientific work too. But yeah, that was a fun question. We had a poll. We had a chat question about that. About you know, who had experience with Julia, and the numbers were definitely not encouraging. Not encouraging. All right, Leo's waving the flag for his Kaggle. Yes, Chad, join the Discord and let's work together on real life problems with data from Kaggle. Contributing and growing within the community only bring benefits in mid to long term. That's absolutely right, Leo. You know what I love about that approach too is that you're going to have to work in a team when you're a data science professional, right? I mean, there are cases where you're going to be a solo data science practitioner, but more likely than not, you're going to have to work within a greater team. And those data science team dynamics are not always easy, right? You kind of have to find a way to navigate that. It's one of the chapters in my book. I dedicated a whole chapter to data science dynamics because it's not something you really learn in class, right? So I encourage you to kind of start working with other people and collaborating. And really the biggest benefit you're going to get there is you're going to be able to take in and understand other people's perspective, other scientists' perspectives. And that's super important in science, right? You can't afford to be dogmatic when you're a scientist. Well, no, this is the way I know, and this is what I know, and this is the way it has to be. That's terrible. You're a terrible scientist if you think that way, right? So if you work in a team environment, it makes it much easier. You know, you're training now to be able to say, hey, this is what I think. I'm putting my work out there. What do you guys think? Oh, you see that completely differently. Why? Help me understand that. What's your rationale for that, right? Or somebody else is going to say, yeah, I agree with your rationale, even though I don't agree with your conclusion. So let's adjust that. What do we need to adjust there, right? It's a very healthy process for all of you to get involved in those conversations and be able to take in other people's feedback and kind of understand that, you know, it's not things that are personal or anything. It's just, hey, I'm a scientist, you're a scientist. Let's talk this out. What's your rationale? What's your process for this? What's your approach here? All very healthy things. So, you know, shout out to Leo for encouraging that type of teamwork because, you know, it's a very healthy thing for a scientist to do. Yeah, so Leo says, join us. Let's model together, develop practice environment, production, code, repositories, etc. Yeah, we can definitely get to that, right? We can definitely get to that level. Let's see if there's more interest there. You know, we've had a couple of things that have been posted, particularly by Yassine, that have kind of been, open for discussion. And, that if you want to start your participation there, please do so, because, I think Yassine is breaking down his study and his thoughts in a way that's very open to other people contributing, right? And you don't have to write code. You don't have to, come up with something amazing. Just contribute and say, yeah, that rationale makes sense to me. Or, hey, this number doesn't look right to me. How did you get there? Can you explain that to me? Totally fine to be doing that. I think we have a very supportive community in that way, okay? So if you guys want to start contributing, please take a look at Yassine's work and give some feedback there. And then also, please, consider teaming up with some of the people in there like Leo that want to, maybe do some of the Kaggle competitions and whatnot, okay? Unknown Crusader is saying, Sir Dennis is really giving a tough competition to Indian free IT educator. I hope so. I hope so. That's part of my motivation, right? That I want to make sure that there's quality data science instructional material out there. Because, I'm a professional in the field. I've been professional for a long time. But when you get to that stage in your career, it's your responsibility to make sure that the profession overall keeps growing and growing, right? So I'm taking this as my duty to be able to help the next generation of data scientists, right? So that's really kind of why I do this. And yeah, I mean, there is a lot of junk out there, right? A lot of people selling dreams, selling products, which I really don't do. I just offer my book. If you want to support me, you can consider buying my book. But yeah, I think there is a lot of stuff out there that maybe isn't the best content. And sometimes I point it out on my Instagram, sometimes not, but yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I do everything for free. I don't sell any courses or anything like that. I don't have a Udemy or anything like that. Just trying to help the next generation, right? Because I want to help the profession overall succeed, right? So in turn, I want to grow professional data scientists, not crack the data scientist interview on all that junk. All right, Leo, sounds like you got your first volunteer already. Rohan says Leonardo will try to form teams and work. Have you guys heard about this? There's a couple videos out there. If you want to Google something called the first adopter syndrome or the first adopter phenomenon. Have you seen this? It's usually like the way they show it in the Google videos. Let me know if you've seen it. Let me know in the chat. But in the Google videos, it's always like a group of people, and then one person starts dancing crazy, and like in the group of people doesn't know what's going on or what's happening. But as soon as like that first adopter, that second person starts also dancing crazy, then it leads to the whole group dancing crazy. Have you guys seen this? If you Google it, you'll find it. But we're seeing it in action here, right? Leo wants the Kaggle. He's got his first adopter in Rohan. So it's only going to build from here, right? I feel positive it's only going to go up from here. So Leo, it looks like you might get your little your Kaggle group here going. And I'd love to see you guys put that together, come up with your own ideas, and I'll jump in and, maybe give my input as needed. But, this is the community helping the community. So fantastic stuff, guys. Leo says, lol, I'm the one dancing crazy, I admit. Yeah, but hey, that's all you need. You need that first adopter, right? That's the whole point of the theory, right? That it's okay to be crazy, but you just got to go after that first adopter. And if you do that, it kind of falls into place, right? So keep going. Oh, look, you got your second one already. See? It's happening right in front of our eyes, guys. I'm very interested in the Discord Kaggle project collaboration. Let's go. Yeah, Jati, I think you're already a member in the Kaggle, right? Yeah. Gosh, we're at 115 members. That's crazy. Leo says, absolutely agree, Dennis. As your guest from yesterday said, not being afraid of asking questions and constant learning with the team. Absolutely. Yeah, so obviously Leo here is referring to working in a team environment and the team dynamics. And again, you can find more in my book, Your First Year in Data Science. But yeah, Leo's also referring to my guest from yesterday. And thanks so much everyone that attended. I think we had a really great live stream. My friend Laura Sell had a great time with all of you. So yesterday I invited my friend Laura Sell. She's a director that works in wealth management. I worked with her for a few years, really talented lady. So if you guys want to see the replay of that, it's on my channel, Data Science with Dennis on YouTube. All my interviews are up there. And she talked about that, about, learn, be open, raise your hand, ask questions. She was giving that as an example as in earlier in your career, but then she also talked about how it can be used later in your career, like when you move to a new company, a new boss, a new team. Raise your hand. Don't be afraid to reach out. So I think that was one of the great messages that Laura Sell gave yesterday, as Leo here is referencing. But yeah, work in a team environment is super important for data scientists, right? Even me, now when I do these live chats, I still reach out to my friends, my colleagues, people like Laura Sell, people like, the head of innovation I had dinner with on Monday, the old managing directors I know, Kyle, who was also one of my interviews. Kyle, was a great interview also if you want to look at that one. But I use them to help me understand where they see things. Where the market is going, where their hiring is going, what tools they're doing, what processes, what team approaches and policies they have in place, right? So I do that too, on a little bit of a different level, right? Because I'm trying to get a corporate view and an international view. But that's something you should be doing throughout your life. I'm using that as an illustration because even me, many years into my career, I'm still reaching out, still saying, hey, this is what I think about, whatever, where data science hiring is going. What do you think? What are you seeing? And then they give me their perspective, and then they build off my perspective too, right? I might change their perspective, they might change mine. Who knows, right? Or sometimes you just say, we're going to see things differently on this one, and that's okay. We're going to proceed and let things play out, and that's okay, right? So, yeah. So if you guys want to join Leo, do it. Don't be afraid to raise your hand. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a healthy process. I'm also seeing that in the Discord. I think the Discord is a very welcoming community. So, great people like Yassine have also been willing to put their work out there. And I know it's not always easy to put your work out there. That can be intimidating to a lot of people. I get it. But put it out there. Put it out there. Get people's reviews, right? Get people's opinions. And say, hey, this is where I think this is going. What do you think? So again, if you want to do that, check out Yassine's work on the Discord. Feel free to comment there. I've provided some comments, but keep the discussion going. Super, super valuable in data science. Okay, yes, I've been talking to Yassine. He's down for the team up. We're working on that exercises approach. Leo, have I seen you put that in the Discord? Make it public, put it out there. Put it out there with other people, because you never know who you're going to pick up. You never know what other perspectives you're going to pick up. But, feel free to, do it out in the public in the main chat. One of the things you'll notice when you join the Discord, guys, is I really only have one channel. Well, I have two channels. When you first join, there is an option for a subscription level channel, but there's also a free channel, and that's totally okay. But you'll notice I really only have one main channel for people. Because, sometimes you join these Discords and there's like 50 channels and the conversation gets broken up and you just don't know what to follow and you just kind of give up, right? But I have one channel because my intent is to keep the collaboration open and keep the conversation flowing. So put it out there. Go ahead and just, talk it out, right? Get other people's views, right? And you don't have to take in everybody's views. You can say, yeah, I appreciate your view, but I'm not on board with it, so I'm gonna go this way, right? Totally okay. There was one other thing I wanted to... it'll come to me. I forgot. There was one other thing about the Discord that I remember, but it'll come back to me. Andres, I'm going to come back to your question, okay? Oh yeah, I've seen that video. It says Rex. Yeah, Rex, it's a popular video. A lot of people have seen it, but it's called the first adopter. What it's teaching is called the first adopter phenomena or syndrome or whatnot. But yeah, it's a popular video. I'm sure some of you are recognizing it. All right, so Leo says, yes, I was waiting for your thumbs up before now. Yeah, Leo, go ahead and do that. Just, put it out there. If something goes wrong or whatnot, I have a great team of mods on there with Rex and Joseph and Patrick. But yeah, go ahead and put it out there. We have a pretty supportive community for that. All right, so I know a couple of you asked questions, so I want to go back. Make sure I didn't miss any questions. But again, if you're joining us late, feel free to introduce yourself. Just let us know the city, state, country that you're from. Okay, so I think the first question was by Chadi. What are the considerations to take when choosing between starting an AI consulting agency versus releasing a product? Oh, that's a good one. I don't know, Chadi. That's a tough one to answer because I'd have to know more about what type of consulting you're looking to do. And also your experience behind each one of these, right? And then also how you are set up to do these. Because here's the challenge that I see between the two options. Now, keep in mind that I'm presuming that you are equally capable in both of these and that you have a certain number of resources available to you to make either one of these fly, right? But the challenge to the choosing between the two is probably going to be your revenue stream, because you can probably get to quicker revenues with a consulting agency than you can by releasing a product. At least that's what my gut tells me. But it depends on how involved you see your product being, right? Like what kind of product are we talking about, right? I mean, like there's a big difference between doing a service versus a consumer product, right? Like two completely different development times. But again, just assuming that you're solid as an agency, you can deliver projects, or that you're solid as a developer, you can release a product. The agency is probably the quicker of the revenue generating ones. Now, keep in mind, there's two things. One, each one of those comes with its own headaches, right? Just because it's quicker revenue doesn't mean it's easy revenue. And two, I said quicker revenue, not quick revenue. There can still be a long sales cycle for the AI, for any consulting, right? Consulting can still have a very long sales cycle. So I see it as quicker between the two, but there's still a lot of work and a lot of, a lot of personal investment that you're still going to have to do to be able to make either one of those ideas fly, right? So if you want to provide more details in the chat, or if somebody else wants to chime in on this, let me know. Feel free to add it, but that's kind of my take, given the information that I have here, right? You'd have to sit down with a business consultant and really, kind of figure out like the individual little portions of each of those ideas, right? Because it can vary so much, right? It can vary so much. All right, let me keep on going, make sure I didn't miss any questions. Okay, so Andres says, hi Dennis, what do you think about my objective to transition from BI to DA up to DS? Help me understand what you're doing now, because there shouldn't be such a massive difference between BI and data analysts. Like, what are you not doing right now that you would still want to do as a data analyst? Right? Because like that line is blurring really quickly, right? There's a lot of tools, a lot of approaches, a lot of everything that has helped greatly in the last like 4 or 5 years. So help me understand that. What are you doing as a BI specialist now that you aren't doing as a data analyst, or that you see yourself as adding to your data analyst title or skills? I really can't think of many, right? And I say that also because I don't want you guys to get too caught up in these details, right? I mean, you might already be a data analyst. It just doesn't fit your own preconceived notion of what that is. You understand what I'm saying? Like maybe you already are a data analyst, because most BI people would be. So if I'm misunderstanding something, let me know in the chat. You know, feel free to add more details, but help me understand that. As far as going from DA to data scientist, the answer is usually modeling, right? You're going to have to work on your modeling skills. And that's especially true if you want to do it within the same team, right? Like if you want to get promoted from a data analyst to a data scientist. So I've done this a couple times in my career. And the biggest difference between those two is going to be understanding the methodology of data science. So in other words, not just what a model is, but how does a model come together? What are the steps that lead to model creation? And second is, do you know enough code to be able to execute what is needed to create that model? Those are usually the two things that people who are data analysts need to work on in order to make that jump to data science. It can be done. You know, I've done it with two analysts that have approached me about that in my career. But that's really kind of what you're going to have to work on, right? And when I say work on it, I don't just mean like physically. I mean that you're going to have to show the people on your team that you can do that you're capable of that, right? Because that's how they're going to perceive you. They're going to perceive you as a data analyst, as someone who can't code, right? I mean, that's kind of, I think that's a common preconception, right? Like, so that's going to be the hardest part, to be able to say, hey, I can do the data analyst side, but here's also some code I wrote that shows my modeling skills, right? Or like maybe you would take one of the problems that they're working on and you would work on it in parallel. And you would say, yeah, I know that we're working on that, but here on my own time, as my own assignment, I went ahead and I sketched this model out and I think this model might work. That's how you would make that switch from data analyst to data scientist, because you would be demonstrating those coding and modeling skills that you are perceived to not have. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. I think that's the most common hurdles that you'll face in making that challenge. Okay? So guys, if you're just joining us on Instagram or on YouTube or any other platforms, we're getting more people on Kick and Twitch, by the way. Feel free to let us know the city, state, province that you're from. And if you have any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Or if you have a follow-up to the questions, you know, feel free to put in the chat. That right now is a good time for it. I've been drinking water with electrolytes in it because that really helps me feel a little bit more balanced during the summer. You know, during the summer, you sweat so much and you lose all your electrolytes. So almost for the past year now, I've been working with a coach, and you know, he's helped me understand more about the electrolytes and the importance to your body. So basically, any water that I drink now always has some electrolytes, always makes you feel good and ready to go. So many people underestimate how much salt you need, so the electrolytes help me with that. Muna, okay. Muna, where are you from? Let us know your city, state, and country. Says, what stack do you think is best to learn with the rise of AI recently? I don't know, Muna. I obviously I can give you an answer to this, right? But I want to caution you and anybody else about following the latest and greatest in trends, right? Be very careful about that. A lot of data science really still just comes down to fundamentals, right? So don't worry about chasing the latest and greatest, because that's not always going to be what leads to something positive, whether you want a job or you want to build a project or a product or, compete on Kaggle or whatever. So be careful about chasing the latest and greatest. And also, as we've talked about before, a lot of current AI things are still machine learning under the hood. It's just applied a different way, right? These are all still tools, right? It's just how you apply them. I think that learning the OpenAI API is kind of important. I've had some fun with that. I've done 3 or 4 different projects with that. So, maybe you want to look at some of the API documentation out there, right? But the API documentation is ultimately independent of the stack that you're going to be using with it, right? Like, you could be using any number of languages and approaches and theories to using the OpenAI API, right? You can be using AI to enrich a current product you have, right? You're not always starting from a blank page, from a blank product for AI, right? So keep that in mind, right? That you don't always want to chase the latest and greatest. There's always fundamental things you could be doing or learning. And, maybe keep an eye on a couple of interesting APIs out there. I choose OpenAI, but you can certainly choose another one. And then incorporate that into your own stack, into your own projects, into your own experimentation, right? One of the first things that I did with the OpenAI API was I hooked it up to my phone so that I could text OpenAI. I have like a personal service where I can text ChatGPT directly. So I did that via Python code, the API, and I used another API to do the SMS side of it, right? So, like, is that my tech stack? Maybe, right? But it's not innovative, right? It's just me applying Gen AI to having a convenience on my phone, right? I can just sit there and text back and forth with OpenAI. It's actually pretty cool. Or with ChatGPT, I meant to say. So, it's not always a new stack you have to chase, right? It's just keeping up with the latest, or keeping up with the changes in the approaches, I should say. Okay. Muna says, I'm from Georgia. Okay, very cool. Georgia the country or Georgia the state? See, this is why you guys got to tell me the city, state, country. Let me know which one of the Georgias you're from. Give me. Let's see. Yassine says, can you please give an idea about what is expected from a junior data scientist or an intern in the company? Okay. Yassine, that's a great question. And I talk about this in my book, Your First Year in Data Science. So I can really only comment on what I do, right? I think other teams, other managers are going to give you a different answer. But for me, my biggest expectation of you is to work on data pipelines and organizing the data for the team. That's probably the number one thing I ask my first years, my juniors to do. It's a couple of reasons. I think it'd be more than 2. One, it gets you comfortable working with code within our code base, right? Because it's one thing to work on code on your own. It's another to work in an existing code base, right? You're going to have to learn how the team does things, how they organize their code, what the current code looks like, so on and so forth. Those are 2 completely different things. Do not underestimate how challenging that can be, right? You working at home with your code is not going to be like working with code in a corporate environment. So that's the first reason I do it. Second reason I do it, it helps me also gauge where you're at with your code and your approach and your thinking, right? It's kind of an opportunity for you to showcase your skills and let me kind of know where you're at, right? Because as I said, I'm a manager that doesn't ask a lot of coding questions in interviews, right? I want to know about your theory, your rationale, your understanding of concepts. So bringing you in and having you do data pipelines is a way for me to kind of see where your coding is at, right? And then The third reason I do it is it helps you start talking to other people in the company. Because it's really hard to start working on data pipelines and organizing that without reaching out to other people, right? Either within the team or outside the team, right? You're going to have to talk to like DBAs. Maybe you're going to have to talk to stakeholders or things like that. So it's a good way to expose you to, well, the company, right? Other people in the company. It's a good way to expose you to other people. And that's a healthy thing, right? I should be doing that as a manager. And then the fourth reason is also because it's one of the skills that really isn't taught in academics, right? In most academic exercise, the overwhelming majority of academic exercises out there, the data is given to you. And it's nice and it's clean and everything is laid out, you know, in columns that make sense and all of that. That's not the way it is in the real world, right? So it gets you accustomed to that. It gets you accustomed to pulling from different sources. Where are you going to store it? You know, this might be your exposure to big data, right? Because, you know, it's kind of hard to simulate big data or properly simulate big data in academic environments, right? That's not always possible. So those are the types of things that I focus on, Yassine, and why I do that, okay? So I hope that helps. If you need more clarification, let me know in the chat. Satyam asks, do they ask DSA in data science interviews? Again with the DSAs. Satyam, let me know why you asked that question. I'm curious. I want you to tell me why they asked that question. Okay? Give me your motivations for why you asked that question. Yeah. Looks like we got some spam on Twitch. I'm sure Rex will take care of that. Muna says they are from Georgia, the state. Okay, good to know. We have a couple people from Georgia on here. Zakaria says, hi Dennis, greetings from Morocco. Greetings to you too. We have a few people from Morocco here. Lots of followers in Morocco. I'd like to ask, which statistical concepts do you think are essential for a data scientist to learn? It depends on what you mean by statistical concepts, right? Like, are you talking like from applied statistics, like from an advanced statistics course you took? But overall, you know, make sure you clarify in the chat. But what I would tell you is, one, hypothesis testing, right? Understand what hypothesis testing is, because that's kind of like the fundamentals of data science, right? Or one of the fundamentals of data science. So I recommend you have a pretty good understanding of hypothesis testing. You don't have to be great at it, because I know there's some people that are really, really good at it. You don't have to be great at it, but understand what it is, right? And then understand how some of the things that you know from a statistical background apply to data science, right? Like when you're doing z-tests in statistics, isn't that just A/B testing, right? Like, it's one of those things where like both a data scientist and a statistics person is going to know it. They just call it different things, right? The statistics person knows it as z-test. The data scientist knows it as A/B testing, right? So like, isn't it the same thing? Yeah. And then fundamentally, right? What are you doing in each one of those A/B tests and z-testing? Well, I mean, you're making sure that you've eliminated the noise, right? That you've eliminated the randomness, because if you can do that, then you can point to a model or a process or something and say that process has a significant effect or some sort of tangible effect that we found with a very low probability of happening randomly, right? Of happening by noise, right? Well, I mean, isn't that what you're saying in data science, right? In data science, you're saying, hey, we came up with a model that works, that predicts the future, right? It's not acting in a random way. It's predicting what we need it to predict, right? Or to classify or whatever, right? I mean, that's kind of what data science is too, isn't it, right? The removal of bias, the removal of noise, right? So those are the concepts that I would like to see somebody carry forward. I mean, and that's what I've carried forward, because I studied applied statistics. So those are the concepts that I think have helped me the most. Hypothesis testing, and then like t-testing, z-testing, all that, right? I mean, it's actually one of the questions, now that you remind me, it's one of the questions I ask in my interviews. Like, I kind of like ramp up my interviews. Like if somebody's doing well, I try to ask them questions that are just a little bit harder, right? Just to kind of see where they're at. So that's one of like my level 3 questions that I would ask. What is a t-test and what is a z-test, right? So those are the types of things that I think would be important to carry over into a data science interview. Okay, so I hope that helps, Zachary. If not, give me a second. Give me more information in the chat, please. Okay. So Bakar says, "Hi Dennis, I'm a final year student pursuing data science in Pakistan. Could you please suggest some great final year project ideas that would be good for my CV?" Welcome, Bakar. I don't think I've seen you in here before, so welcome. And congratulations on being close to finishing out your degree. But here's the thing though, Bakar. If you're in your final year of studies, shouldn't you kind of have your own ideas already? Have you been cheating in class? Have you been copying off other people's papers? I'm just kidding with that, but if you're in your final year, you should already be kind of be generating that, right? See, I don't like to give project ideas because I don't want to take away the opportunity that's in front of you. You have an opportunity right now to be creative and come up with your own ideas, right? So what are some of your interests? What are some of the news articles or industry happenings that are happening in one of your interests? Okay, so now you found some news, some articles, you're keeping up with that. What are some of the questions that those articles or that industry news or the industry happenings, what are some of the questions that are coming up in your mind as you are reading through those articles or as you're doing that research? Questions usually make pretty good starts to a hypothesis. And what's a hypothesis? A hypothesis is a project idea, right? So I'm not gonna help you on this one. I think you can help yourself on this, because you should have a questioning mind as a data scientist, right? I mean, you're going to be doing this not just now, but for the rest of your career if you stay within data science, right? So I want you to do that. I want you to think about your interests. What is happening with those interests, right? Keep up with that news, keep up with that industry. And then what are the questions that pop up in my mind after I read this? Like, I'm interested in X. I found a research study from that industry's trade association. I read the study, but hey, they didn't go far enough in this question. Why didn't they ask this instead of this? They could have asked this. They could have tied it back to this other thing that I read. And next thing you know, you got a project idea on your hands, right? So that's what I'm going to encourage you to do, Bakar, because if you're in late stages of your degree, you'll be just fine. Okay. Yassine says, "Thank you, sir." Oh, you're welcome. I hope the answer helps, Yassine. Rex says, "How much Bayesian statistics is used in data science these days?" Not as much as you think, Rex. Not as much as you think, and the ones that are being used are already kind of like rolled up into libraries. So if this is a topic that interests you, Rex, or anybody else in the chat, because I get it, Bayesian statistics, had their day and all that, right? Like, there was a very long time there where like it was the thing, right? But there have been gaps identified in Bayesian approaches, right? There's a reason why a lot of people no longer use Bayesian statistics for spam filters, right? Because there was a time, and I'm talking like the early 2000s, where like Bayesian filtering for spams was like considered to be like the holy grail, right? Like, we found the holy grail to solve spam, and people found a way around it, right? So Bayesian statistics or Bayesian approaches can be good for a lot of things, but they do have their flaws. So that's the answer, Rex. Not as much as you think, not as much as it would have been in previous times. If you asked me this question like, 15 years ago, totally different answer, right? I would have told you that it's used everywhere. But now it's not as much as you think. But a great question though. Thanks for that. Okay, Satyam. Satyam replies, some of the industry people told me to not revise the data structure in algos, but some told me they will definitely ask, but I can't see requirements in data science environment. Okay. All right. Okay, so good. I like this answer. I like this answer a lot better than your previous question. Because when it comes to these types of things, I want you to make your own critical analysis of this. Right? And I'm encouraging you and everybody else to do this because this is part of being a data scientist. I'm going to take in information and I'm going to make a decision for myself. Super critical in data science. Right? If you show me that you can't do that portion in an interview or when you're working for me, bad sign, right? I want people who can think on their own, right? So the reason it caught my eye when you first asked it is because I guess there's a trend or it got viral or whatever you want to say about DSAs where everybody started running around saying, oh my God, we need to know DSAs. So that's why I kind of stopped at your question. So I want you to go out and experience it for yourself and say, well, are people actually asking this or not? So I appreciate your latest message because you're saying that you spoke to multiple people. Some said yes, some said no. And your intake of that is to say, well, I don't see how it applies. Right? I think I'm summarizing your message correctly. So I like the fact that you took that second step and said, well, wait a minute. Do I really need that? Like, when would I use that? Right? It sounds like that's what you did. So I appreciate that in you. That's a really good step. So you're telling me I can't see the requirements in the data science environment. That's your rationale. And me, as a scientist, I'm going to tell you, you know what, Satyam, I agree. I like your rationale, and I agree. So I can tell you that I've never asked questions on DSAs. I think that their need is overblown. I think things like this, gain popularity on social media, but, maybe it happened to one person and all of a sudden it turned into, oh my God, everybody's asking DSA questions. Well, that may not be the case, right? So I agree with your rationale. I don't see the application of them either, or at least not to a heavy importance, right? In my opinion, if somebody out there is asking that, I think it's a weak question because what have you really learned from that person, right? I mean, you haven't really learned anything about that person's thought patterns if you're asking those rote questions about, DSAs or leak code or things like that, right? You haven't learned about the person. You haven't learned about the scientist. So take that as you will, Satyam. I've never asked them. I think they're overblown. I agree with your rationale that they probably don't have like a very good carryover into what you're going to be doing in data science. But if you do want to get more of a real world view, start coming to our class on Sundays. That way you can kind of see the process that we're doing for model development, and we're going through a very good book here. So that might help you understand more of the real world side, okay? Okay. Manoj B says, hi Dennis, if you make a playlist for this 100 days of data science, it would be much help. I think I already do. Manoj, thanks for the reminder. I think I do. To your point, I do need to reorganize my playlist, but let me find that and I'll post it in the Discord. I think you're a Discord member. But yeah, let me work on that. But thank you for that. But I think I do have it. I just haven't highlighted it enough, right? So let me work on that. Bakar says, I've been looking into Gen AI and trying to play with voice agents. Cool. That's a good idea. It's a lot of fun. Michael says, hello, Dennis. I've been going through some data science materials and I keep seeing the use of ANOVA. Can you please shed more light on it? Ooh, cool. This makes for a great question for the chat. Thanks so much, Michael. I'll give you my answer after the chat. I don't want to bias the chat. Okay, chat. So Michael's throwing a question out there. What is ANOVA? You might want to start by figuring out what if you don't know already, right? If this is like for outer space to you, that's okay. You might want to start by figuring out what ANOVA means, right? There's a reason why it's in capitals, right? So it's an acronym. It's technically speaking, it's an acronym. So what is ANOVA, guys? And have you found it useful in data science? Or maybe you want to talk about an application that you've seen of ANOVA. Because he's right. You know, it's out there. It's very popular, right? There's different ways to use ANOVA. But yeah, if you guys want to do that, participate, you know, let's make this participatory. So chat, let's answer Michael's question. What is ANOVA? Have you used it? Do you want to give an example? Do you not know? It's totally okay to say I don't know. Or if you see another chat, it's okay to say, hey, I agree with so-and-so. Totally okay to do that. But let's have some participation. Thanks for the question, Michael. Michael, you're not supposed to answer your own question. Stippus says, not to step on Dennis's toes, but in my opinion, you got to find something you want to do that makes you stand out. Hey, Stippus, you know what? When it comes to that message, step on my toes all you want. I love getting that message out there. You can't, yeah, guys, if you're going to remember anything from my content, please, you can't be a math robot or a data robot and succeed in data science, period. I'll say it again for the people in the back of the classroom. You can't be a math robot or a data robot and succeed in data science. That is not what data science is about, or that's not what leads to success in data science. One, if you get a job by being a math data robot, that's pure luck, right? Because if all you're willing to do is be a math robot, then you have put yourself into the one of many category, because you can't distinguish yourself on that. What are you going to do? Outmath everybody? Did you win the Fields Medal? Did you win the Nobel Prize? No. Well, then that means you're just like everybody else, right? So how does a hiring manager choose you? It's a random win, right? You randomly win by lottery because the hiring manager can't distinguish you, and they say, oh, okay, we'll just take this person. That happens, by the way, right? So, like, why are you doing that, right? It's about your projects. It's about your rationale. It's about your practice as a scientist. Data science is an applied science, right? So, Stippus, keep getting that message out there. You got to find ways to stand out. That's how you're going to get a job. And more importantly, that's how you're going to be successful as a data scientist. Because now people feel like they can talk to you. And when I say people, I don't mean other scientists. I mean the business side, the people that you are ultimately serving, the people that will ultimately say, yeah, you know, Dennis is a good guy. He really delivered a good project for us. They don't care if you deliver math or code. They want to know about the business impact, right? So keep that in mind, guys. So yeah, Stippus, step on my toes all you want for that message. Hamula, welcome. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. Let us know where you're from. Okay, by the way, guys, the question is what is ANOVA? I'm seeing a lot of definitions, but let us know more about it. Like, what do you mean when you tell me the ANOVA definition? Ravindran, I'm seeing a good explanation. But yeah, let me know, guys. So Hamula says, I have a tech interview on Tuesday for machine learning DL. What is DL? Am I just blanking out, or is that a weird one? Engineer, what is the best way to prepare myself for the interview? Man. Hamula, I see that you're new, and I love the participation, so I definitely don't want to sound discouraging to you. But if you're asking on a Friday how to prepare for an interview on a Tuesday, you might want to revisit your approach to this job search. Okay? You should probably already know these things going into it. Now, it may be that you're a recent graduate and this is your first interview ever, and you've done your study and you've got a great degree. So I'm sorry, if that's the case, right? But going with the information that I'm given here, it's probably too late, right? Like you should already be prepared for the time you have a Tuesday interview. There is no cram sheet. There is no magic link that I can point to you and say, here, go to this and you'll be prepared for Tuesday. You'll be prepared in 3 days or 2 days, whatever time we have left, right? So keep on coming back, keep on learning about data science, dedicate yourself to the profession as a serious student of it, right? Because it is a serious profession. And do the work of a data scientist. If you can do that, then the interviews and everything else is just a formality, because people will see that you are a serious professional, right? Cramming over the weekend for a Tuesday interview, maybe not the best sign of a serious data science professional, right? So keep that in mind. Again, I don't want to sound discouraging. I love that you joined. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support. But I'm here to give you guys real world answers. I'm not here to sell you guys, sunny dreams and all that, right? I mean, it's up to you as a professional to be prepared, right? Friday before a Tuesday interview. Give yourself more time next time, okay? Oh, Stip is coming in heavy. For example, the primary project I show off is a program that trains a neuroevolution of augmenting topologies model to drive a car in a Formula One video game. Very cool. Very cool. I just saw this. I just saw a video on this. What is that? What is that racing game that people are developing algorithms for? What is it called? Is it called like Trackmasters or One Track or something like that? I saw a good video about this recently. Stippis, that sounds really interesting. Trains a neuroevolution of augmented topologies models to drive a car in a Formula One video game. You know what I love about that, Stippis, is I'm always fascinated by people that can find these like really cool APIs to take their code and talk to a video game like that. Now, I know that some games have formal APIs. I think StarCraft has a pretty good, developed API and all that, right? But I'm always fascinated by people who do that, right? Who can take like something completely unrelated, develop enough of an API with it, and sometimes it's kind of done in a rough way with image recognition and things like that, right? And I know that's not always perfect, but I love seeing those interfaces. So Stippis, if that's something you want to share more about, maybe you can put that into Discord, because I find that fascinating. So thanks for sharing that, Stippis. Definitely sounds like a unique approach and a good project to show off. So good for you. Good for you. Ravindran says, how can a person be selected in an interview? By doing some general projects, because that person can't know which company applies for many posts, so he might not know which domain to focus on. Why would you want to focus on a particular domain, right? The domain is you. The domain is you and your interests. That's what you should be focusing on. And here's another reason I say that, right? And Ravindran, I'm telling you this because it still sounds like this is, you still have a little bit of the, well, how do I impress them? How do I impress the recruiter? What keywords do I need to use for the recruiter? How do I impress the manager? You're not trying to impress the manager. You're trying to show that you're a professional. So the way you do that is by focusing on what interests you and developing your projects in your own domain, right? But here's the meta view, like this is like the advanced view of this. A good scientist, and what I mean by that is a good manager, right? The person that you're going to be working for. A good manager will be able to separate your rationale from the project that you're presenting, and in turn, the conclusions that you're presenting, right? A good scientist always presents good rationale, but then they can also recognize good rationale, right? So I've said this before, right? If you include a LinkedIn article on your resume, I'm likely to read that. And when I read that, I'm looking for how you develop things. Like, what are the steps you took? Why did you choose to take these steps? What was the process you followed? And in the Discord, by the way, I posted like a mini template of how you can explain that, right? Or how you deliver your results. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what was your thought pattern, your process that led you to X, right? So if you're walking into an interview and somebody will blow you off and say, yeah, whatever, you showed me an example from the car industry, but we're a hospitality company, so I really don't care about. That's a bad manager. That's somebody you're not going to want to work for anyways, right? So don't worry about that. You're still trying to please the manager and pass keywords, and that's the signs you're showing. Don't do that. Do things for you, for your interest, for your individual research as a scientist, right? You are a data scientist right now. Your domain is your interests. And just like I explained before, what are your interests? What are the companies or industry or things around that interest? Keep up with those articles, keep up with that news, and turn that into studies. And in turn, a good manager, a good person that's interviewing that hint you want to work for is going to be able to separate out that rationale, right? Or just like Stippis showed us right now, right? He's interested in optimizing this video game and he's doing it via data science. Great. So I, as a manager, I may not be like a big video game guy, but I can appreciate that he's melded these interfaces into his own study into the neuroevolutions, right? Like I can appreciate that as an advanced data scientist, as a manager, right? So, I'm assuming Stippis doesn't just want to work in video games or just wants to work at this example, right? The rationale he's showing can still carry across to any number of companies, right? So I hope I hope that's coming across, Ravindran. Don't worry about that. It's not about keywords. It's not about the right projects on your portfolio or anything else. It's about you. It's about your rationale, your approach to the project. If somebody waves you off and says, nah, I don't like your portfolio because those are not in my industry, that's a terrible manager. That is not somebody you want to work for. Trust me. Okay? Akshat says, I have completed 1.5 of my college and I'm doing an applied data science. Where can I find projects that really upskill my knowledge and get a good paying job? Akshat, I don't put my content out there for paying jobs or to pass interviews. I put my content out there to train professional data scientists, right? So focus on being a professional and then everything else you want will come behind that, right? Easiest way to pass an interview is to be a professional in the industry. And to be a professional, you don't have to work in it. You just have to keep doing the work on your own, right? Keep developing your own skills, all right? So that's the best advice I can give you. And maybe you've heard some of the previous responses I've given to other people in the chat because we've had similar questions today. All right, so Stippis is coming back to our question. Remember, our chat question is, what is ANOVA, right? Because Michael asked a great question earlier about ANOVA. ANOVA stands for analysis of variance, and it's basically like a t-test where you have 3 or more groups and you want to know if there's statistically significant differences between the groups. Stippis, that's a great answer. Great answer. So hey, maybe you just want to agree with Stippis. If you're shy, you don't want to participate, you can just say, hey, I agree with Stippis. Ravindran says, ANOVA helps to determine the differences between the groups. Yep, I'm on board with that answer. Jody, ANOVA is analysis of variance. Yep. DL is deep learning. Oh, thanks a lot, Rex. Duh. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long week. But yeah, deep learning. Thanks for that. Deep learning engineer. Yep. Thank you. Now I feel like a moron now that all of you all of you had it and I was the only one that didn't have it. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. Yes, Stippis. Thank you. Trackmania. Yes, Trackmania is the video I saw on YouTube, right? And again, guys, that's just me being a curious data scientist. I'm not a big video game guy. I haven't owned a console in a while. The last game I was really into was the original Splinter Cell on Xbox. And that was like what? Like early 2000s, like 2002 maybe? So I know I'm aging myself there, right? But I can still appreciate it, right? I can still say, hey, that's a cool game. That's a cool interface between the game and, other code that people are writing. That's great, right? So as a hiring manager, I'm still going to appreciate that. And I'm going to say, yeah, okay, cool. This person knows what they're talking about. Maybe it's not a video game company. I'm not running a video game team, but I can still see that person has solid skills in how they reach that conclusion, right? So I'm saying that to kind of bring everything full circle, guys, okay? Just do the work. Do your own interests. Stand out, okay? But yes, thank you for that, Stippis. Trackmania is the one I was thinking about. Okay, let me stay with the ANOVA side because I'm seeing some other stuff. Manoj says ANOVA is used to compare multiple groups. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, good. All of you are providing very reasonable answers, right? So let's come back to Michael's question. So Michael says, I keep seeing use of ANOVA. Can you please shed more light on it? So just to be clear, ANOVA is really more of a statistics concept than it is a data science concept. It's useful in data science, but technically speaking, it's related to statistics, right? And a lot of you are hitting on exactly why you would want to use it in data science. So somebody said, I think it was Stippus. Give me just a second to read them. Yeah. So Stippus says it's a way for you to compare groups and statistically significant differences between the groups. Okay. So let's carry that forward one more step. Why would you need that in data science? Well, because not everything can be modeled, right? Not every feature leads to a model. Right? There may just be too much noise to be able to say, yeah, this can lead to a potential model. Right? So to answer Michael's question, the ways that you're going to use ANOVA in data science is mostly in that kind of like that initial exploration of your data, right? Like you can use it during EDA, right? And say, well, do we even have a model here? Do we have, data that is related in a significant way for us to be able to even see that there's a viable model here? That may or may not be the case, right? Or I want to bring up the Discord at this time. Yassine did some great research and he posted this, right? These are scatter plots, right? But it's the same way for ANOVA, right? ANOVA kind of helps you figure out and say, well, do we even have a model here? So that's the answer that I would give you, Michael. And I'm sure that, other people can tell me that there's other applications of ANOVA. I'm sure that's the case. But as a data scientist, right, with my real world experience, this is how I've seen it used the most. Use it as a tool to help you explore if you have, viable features or not. Or maybe it helps you narrow down on the features to say, yeah, this feature might be indicative towards my target or towards my predictions. So great job on this chat. I'm seeing a lot of really good answers. I think basically everybody got the answer. But yeah, that's how I've seen it used in data science. All right, Michael. So I hope that helps. As far as, giving you a direct answer, but that's where I've seen it used. So I don't think I ask any ANOVA questions in my interviews, but sure, you're going to see it in analytics. You're going to see it in advanced analytics, and you're going to see it in your EDA explorations on some data science teams. So that's what I would be prepared to do, right? Apply ANOVA across a multiple set of features and interpret those results vis-a-vis what they mean for your model or for the viability of a model. Okay. Michael says, thanks a lot for the answer, Dennis. All right, cool. Yeah, hope that helps. Stippus says, I put the GitHub link to my F1 project into Discord. Okay, cool. Did you do that recently? I haven't seen that yet. Okay, cool. I see it now. Yeah, great. All right, I might come back to you on that because I might have some questions on that because I'm just curious about how those interfaces happen. Well, you can tell me that, Stippus. Is there a dedicated API that you're using to interface to the game, or are you coming up with your own API for that? So I'd be interested in that. Like for the F1 game, does it have an existing API, or are you doing it yourself? I'm curious. Stippus says ANOVA seems much more like an academic thing in data science. It can be, but it is useful in data science. It is useful. You definitely don't sleep on it. It can be useful for helping you understand I don't want to say correlations, but the relationships between your features, right? It's very helpful for that. So yeah, definitely don't sleep on ANOVA for data science. It is a useful tool. Not common, but useful. You will see it. All right, let me go back because I think I missed I was skipping around a little bit. So Ravindran was asking some questions earlier about the portfolio. Sir, I'm not trying to impress them, but sometimes people will reject just because there's no relevant experience of the skills they know through the projects. Okay. While I'm researching on data science job posts in India, the requirement was 5 years of experience. Data science started booming. I guess, but they need 5 years of work experience. How is that even possible? Okay, you're asking two different questions there. So let me take the first one. Look, like I said, if they're going to blow you off because there's no relevant experience, then that's not a manager or a team that you want to work on. To me, that is an exhibition of a poor application of data science, right? If you're not open to other rationales or other perspectives, or to read other people's rationales, then you're probably doing data science wrong. I mean, that's just a fact, right? Because, yeah, I mean, that's terrible. And I've told this story before, but I'll say it again. But I experienced this maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. I was talking to a group of executives. I guess it's not a big deal, but they were airline executives, right? They were airline executives here in the US. I'm not going to name the airline. But they told me that they were having a hard time finding a data scientist because they couldn't find people with airline experience. They wanted somebody with airline experience. And I told them that was a mistake, right? That was a massive mistake. Because domain knowledge of that industry can be a dangerous thing. It's a double-edged sword. I guarantee you it's a double-edged sword. Because remember, data science is the removal of bias from all your decisions. How can you possibly say you're avoiding that if all you're doing is hiring people from the same industry? Right? So I told them, my conclusion to them was, if you hire somebody for this, in 3 months or 4 months or whatever into the job, you ask them to do something and they tell you, oh, no, I worked at airline at that other airline and we tried it there. That didn't work. We shouldn't do that. If you hear somebody say that, then you are a complete failure, right? You are letting other people's decisions, other data, other processes infect your own data science process. Right? Like that's a complete failure. So that's why I tell you, Ravindran, that that's not somebody you want to work for, because that's what they're setting themselves up for. Right? They're setting themselves up for saying, well, I don't know why our data science didn't work. We hired people from the same industry. Well, because you hired the failures from the other companies, from the other domains. You brought in the bias from the industry, right? So a good manager will recognize that they are hiring your rationale, not your domain bias, right? That's ultimately what a good manager wants. So I promise you, this is not somebody you'd want to work for long term. I promise you. Okay. 5 years experience, 2018, 2019. First of all, I'm going to disagree with your assertion that data science was booming 2018, 2019. That's not true. That's when you knew it was booming. But data science has been around for a very, very long time. Depending on how you look at it, you could argue it's been around since basically the post-World War II era, right? Whenever like statistics and mathematics were more enabled by computers, right? I mean, people have been doing Monte Carlo simulations since forever, right? Like, what are you saying that's not data science related? Of course it is, right? So be careful with that. Yeah, definitely don't say that in an interview. If you tell me that in an interview, I've already put a red mark next to your name, right? What I would tell you here, don't be afraid to apply. Data science teams don't always know what they're looking for or who they're looking for. So don't be afraid to apply. What's the worst that can happen? They tell you no. Well, that's no loss, right? Don't be afraid to apply. The teams are not always as clear cut on what they're looking for. I mean, I know that I've led some pretty strong teams, but I still have put out job positions that are very, very neutral, right? I tend to list very little skills. The only thing I do list is I do ask that people come in with Python, not R. We don't use R on my teams. But that's it. That's all I'll do. And then I think my record was like 7 different locations. Yeah, like when I was doing my most hiring, I was looking all across the US, Mexico City, Ireland, some parts of India, and Canada. I was doing some parts of Canada and a couple other places. Like I intentionally cast a broad net because I want to see people with different backgrounds and different rationale. So don't be afraid to apply. They don't know what they're looking for. So just do it, okay? And never say that the boom started in 2018, 2019. Huge red flag. Huge red flag. Okay, Ajay, sorry I missed your question earlier. Sir, I am currently exploring data scientist position. I have experience in mechanical maintenance activities. What project can I do? Because currently I don't get any interview calls for the last 3 months. Okay. No interview calls is different than a portfolio. So I would encourage you to revisit your resume. Because you should, if you have a strong resume, you should be getting at least some interview calls. Okay? So on my YouTube, I have a whole tutorial I did. I did a live tutorial on how to do a resume. And I'm sharing a format that I've used in the past with success. So go on my YouTube. It's how to write a data scientist resume, I believe is the title. And, you know, work on that, okay? Work on getting the interviews first and then pivot off what you learn there, okay? And by the way, if you redo your resume and you're still not getting calls, then you maybe need to look at your own credentials and your approach to this, okay? Wiki Polineni says, I will skip data analysis and go directly to machine learning. Will that work? Why? Why? 2 questions. Why? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to be a data scientist? And 2, why would you skip data analysis? I'm very cautious about how you posted that. So let me know what you mean, okay? Okay, so Stippis, bringing us back to his F1 project. The game uses UDP packets to send data to like sim racing rigs. So I tapped into the UDP stream and then unpacked the data. Wow. Are you doing that on your own or with like help? That's pretty advanced. If that's what you're doing, that's pretty cool. All right. See, that gets my attention. If you put that on a resume or tell me about that in an interview, now you're getting my attention. That's excellent. Very cool. Yeah. See, now you made me curious about about like what your GitHub looks like. Stippis says no, it's a one-man show. No, I get that. No, but what I mean is like, are you using an API for that, Stippis, like to unpack the UDPs and all that, and also like how to intercept the UDPs? Like when you say, so I tapped into UDP stream, like is that native code or is that like an API or like a library? I'm curious. That's pretty cool, man. Good for you. Rabette says, hi, Dennis. Hi, Rabette. How are you? Let us know what city, state, country you're from. Ravindran says, thanks. My confusion is clear. I hope so. I mean, I'm just giving you the real world here, Ravindran. Anybody's free to disagree with me here. I'm just giving you my real world perspective. Sir, how does business analyst differ from data analyst? Yeah, you know, we kind of had that question earlier. People were talking about BI versus data analyst. I think that the differences are very, very small nowadays. Very, very small. With the tools and software packages out there and the knowledge, right? Increased knowledge. Very small. Very small. So don't get caught up in that. I think it's a very, very, it's a vanishing gradient, as we learned recently, right? It's a vanishing gradient between those two. Muna from Georgia says, do you think data analysts will become obsolete at some point, and what would you recommend they move into afterwards? Great question, Muna. Great question, and it's a good question for us to wrap up on, because I just realized we've been going for an hour and a half. Wow, thanks to all of you guys for hanging in there with me. You know what? I love the question because I've been thinking a lot about this recently. If you look at some of the ChatGPT tools that are available now for data analysis, for like those initial EDA steps and things like that, yeah, I think that there is a danger to data analysts there, right? And I shouldn't say a danger. We shouldn't think of them as dangers. We should think about them as changes to how we're going to do work. And yes, I do think there is going to be a change where you are going to be doing more work with AI tools. So the dedicated role of business analysts is going to be a lot. It's not going to look like what it looks like now. It's going to look like prompting AI assistants to help you come up with those same results. Right? So yeah, that's where I think it's going. I think that it's going to be not obsolete, but definitely change, fundamentally different, using more API tools, or using more AI tools like ChatGPT to help you come up with those items. Because we already have, ChatGPT, which is pretty good at EDA. And if you can get to EDA, you can get to a visualization stage quickly. And then we have tools that will take your images and visualizations and turn them into a presentation, right? Or into video or whatever. There will eventually be tools that will help you turn that into a Power BI dashboard or whatever, right? I mean, we're probably pretty close to that now, right? So yeah, I mean, I could see how it's going to be a different role. It's a different role. Great question, Muna. Thanks for that. Yeah. Okay, to close off, Stippa says, nope, no API. Wow, so you're doing the UDP stuff and the unpacking with native code. That is excellent. That is excellent, Stippas. You've caught my attention with that. I'm going to take a peek at that because I'm always curious about those interfaces. I love seeing those interfaces. So yeah, so good on you, man. Muna says, so basically an evolution. Yes, a very significant evolution, right? And that's why you should start preparing now, right? And that's what we're doing with this book. So Sunday, 1500 GMT, we go through this book. We don't write any code ourselves. We're ChatGPT is our employee that writes code, right? This is what this is. If you want to join on Sundays, come join us for that, and you'll learn how we're doing it for data science. And I bring it up because the change for business analysts will be very, very similar. Okay. Muna says, please, how often are you live? I love this session. Oh, thank you so much, Muna. Make sure your notifications are on, but generally speaking, I do stream every day at 1500 GMT. Sundays is special. Well, Sundays and Thursdays are special. Sundays I do the class, and Thursdays I try to bring in a guest. This coming Thursday, I'm bringing in my friend who's going to talk to us about HR analytics. She's a managing director, has lots of experience. She's really looking forward to talking to all of you guys. So we'll be bringing her on Thursday. But yeah, it's gonna. I just stream every day because I love this stuff. I'm passionate about this, and I wanna raise a good next generation of data scientists. So thanks so much, everybody. I can't believe we went an hour and a half. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time.